If you're listening to the Automotive ADHD show, we're right here. I'm here with Jim Miller, just a guy. We're talking cars. And one of the things I want to get to here in this segment is the Popemobile. So right. Pope Francis.
Before we get there, though, I just have to say it, man. I just feel like it's that thing. They're like, what are you doing? It's like, I'm robbing Aston to pay Martin. You're like, okay, dude. You need to stop, guys.
Oh, man. Well, so the Popemobile would be very interesting if it was an Aston. It's not, by the way. I would.
What is it?
Well, this last one here. By the way, the Pope has passed away. Pope Francis passed away. And he
break out your potpourri.
Yeah, and he had been dealing with a lot of health issues before, and they didn't sound very pleasant. Especially, he had double pneumonia. I didn't know you could actually have twice the pneumonia. Is it like pneumonia?
It's like a gambling thing I wouldn't want to take care of or do.
I looked it up online. Apparently what double pneumonia means is it's pneumonia, but in both lungs.
Oh.
I thought pneumonia just covered both of them anyway, but...
I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
Anyway, he was in the hospital for that for a while. They let him out, and then he passed away apparently peacefully sometime last week. And though, of course, if you're listening to the podcast, the time frame there might not make as much sense. But he drove, well, he didn't drive it, a Mercedes. This is interesting. It is a Mercedes-Benz G-Class, but it's not a normal G-Class. So
don't they have bubbles on the back of them? That's all I always think.
They do, and we'll talk about the history of that a little bit here. But the current one, and this comes by way of USA Today, they say the current Popemobile is based on the Mercedes-Benz G-Class, but where it differs from the traditional G-Class, of course, is the bubble, the thing in the rear. Mm-hmm. So it's been modified to have that. But apparently, this one also had some electric power in it, which is really weird. It's like a weird hybrid G-Class. So I guess the Pope is trying to be all...
I always thought the Popemobiles looked like the cars off of Simpson. Remember the Homer? When Danny DeVito was his brother with the car dealers, the car company, and he's like, design a car for the everyday purpose. And he's all, and you call it the Homer. It's got a separate bubble in the back so the kids are away from him.
Was it the Simpsons that had the, what was it, the Canyonero? Do you remember the Canyonero?
It's like, wasn't it running over like horses?
It's terrible,
and it's
yeah.
got like Krusty the Clown driving. It's like, Canyonero.
Yep.
It's all, it gets a whole mile for 50 gallons of fuel or something.
Not miles to the gallon, gallons to the mile.
Gallons to the mile.
Yep.
50 gallons to the mile. Canyonero.
The thing I love about it, Canyonero sounds like it totally could be a real car, though. It really does. It I don't know. It sounds like something the Australians would drive upside down.
The Popemobile always looked like that car that Homer invented, the Homer.
Yeah. So, okay, by the way, the last appearance that the Pope made in his G-Class, by the way, was Easter Sunday, St. Peter's Square, so April 20th, not that, just a little bit ago, and it was in an all-electric version of the G-Class, and it is custom-made. I'm finding that here. It's a custom G-Class for the Pope.
Electric cars scare me. That noise alone.
Quad-motor electric drivetrain, and apparently the reason they did that is so they could optimize it for slow parade type of stuff. Okay. And he's, out there waving at people and stuff.
Does that bubble have AC in it? It'd have to.
I don't know. Well, there are pictures of it being open. I think it can be in an open configuration and not in an open configuration. But that ties into why we have the bubble at all in the Popemobile. And that goes not too far back. But
is this some weird story? Like a Pope long ago had a vehicle with a horse carriage and he had a fish. And you're like, what?
The fishbowl on the back. Yeah. I've never quite understood why the Pope actually needed a Popemobile. But, I mean, if
anti-assassinations,
right, that must be it. But having said that, so the Popemobile is such an interesting vehicle. And you look at it, you look at what celebrities and people in politics and high-ranking religious people like the Pope drive, and they all have something interesting and weird, usually to combat assassination attempts. I mean, you look at what the president drives, for example. Look at what people like that drive. I mean, there's a whole world of armored cars and interesting things That
we need to do one on all those presidential vehicles, huh?
We do, and I want to get to the history of the Popemobile.
Popemobile, dude.
I want to get to the history of why it is the way it is, and also what should the next Pope drive? We're gonna have a new Pope, right?
A Humvee.
So we should have something different. We're gonna make some official recommendations to the new Pope on this show. You heard it here first. Stay tuned. You're listening to the Automotive ADHD show. My guest is Jim Miller, just a guy. We're gonna be back here in just a minute after the break. Don't go anywhere.
Can you name the truck with four-wheel drive? Smells like a steak and seats 35. Canyonero, Canyonero. Well, it goes real slow with the hammer down. It's the country pride truck endorsed by a clown. Canyonero, Canyonero.
Hey, hey!
The Federal Highway Commission has ruled the Canyonero unsafe for highway or city driving.
Canyonero.
This is Automotive ADHD with Matt West.
Yes, it is. And also Jim Miller, I should add, on this edition of the Automotive ADHD show. You can send your car sounds into my show. That was a supercharged Audi, by the way, and the driver of that, he knows who he is. He's in the running for the Golden Ratchet. I should have mentioned in the last segment, Scott, who sent the Dodge Dart sounds in, is also in the running for the Golden Ratchet. And Jim, I failed. I did not bring the Golden Ratchet to the studio today.
Oh.
Have you actually seen it in person?
Yeah, it's a little too much for me.
It's gold. It could be in your toolbox.
It's kind of like dudes and cigars or men that drink with straws, you know? It's just a little much.
Just sometimes. A little too much? All right, I see.
When you see another grown man eating bananas and pickles in traffic, and you're like, yeah, I'm good today.
Well, don't eat the Golden Ratchet, at least, if you're going to eat anything in traffic.
Don't be kissing her.
Yeah. You probably don't want to do that. But by the way, you can send your car sounds into my show, facebook.com/automotiveadhd. Pinned post at the top of the page, and get yourself in the running for some cool stuff. So
some Golden Ratchets.
Some Golden Ratchets. So
those are Harbor Freight ones, right? Icons?
Yeah, they are Icon, though. They're not Pittsburgh. It's a big difference there. Difference there.
Yeah, anything from Pittsburgh sounds like it's terrible nowadays.
Yeah, man. Yeah, but Icon's good stuff. I like all of my Icon stuff. It's actually decent. And then the Snap-on guys they'll cry because it's not actually expensive enough. It doesn't do anything different, but it's not expensive enough. So they will cry about that. But all right. So we were talking before the break about the Popemobile, and we were going to talk a little bit about the history of the Popemobile, and I've got a timeline here.
Since it's the Popemobile, does it like smell like potpourri too?
Is that what popes smell like? I don't know.
Do popes smell like potpourri?
I don't know.
Is that the scent of his Mercedes G, just mobile? Is it?
Go figure. Maybe it is. Maybe that's actually where potpourri comes from.
The title of it? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Does it have to do with the history of the bubble on the Popemobile?
It could. Well, the history, that does, like many things when it comes to political figures, religious figures who are candidates for assassination. That is definitely part of that. And the Popemobile here, going back pre-20th century, goes, what they did basically is you've seen these things in like movies and stuff. The Pope basically sat on a ceremonial chair, a throne type thing that people carried.
Okay.
So people actually walked him through crowds and in parades. So that's part of the tradition, supposedly, as to why he's going right through the crowds. He's waving at people. He's doing stuff like that.
Like royalty in medieval times.
Yeah. But the thing is, in 1929, they started using motor vehicles. And these are early cars. And they're typically luxurious, like
steam-powered
fancy
cars.
That would be cool. But that being said, going on into the 30s through the 50s, various cars, they use various different vehicles to suit different needs. And there's been different Popemobiles, and it's not always even the same Popemobile with the same Pope. It's gonna depend on the usage. But
is there like a Pope cave? It's like the Bat Cave. It's got a bunch of different Batmobiles in it. And they're like, quick, to the Pope cave, to the Popemobiles.
I'm sure it exists somewhere deep under the Vatican.
I'm not going to lie. That makes the Pope kind of sound all right.
I mean, I'm sure there's a garage full. Did you see, there was, Was it? Oh gosh, it was a Lamborghini that the Pope had. Actually,
There's a Pope that had a Lambo.
Yeah,
What?
yeah. The Pope had a Lambo. I just thought of this.
He wasn't driving that slow.
It was a one-of-the-kind Lamborghini, and I believe this was...
Did it have a bubble on it?
No. But this was Pope Francis. Now, as cool as it sounds, it was a donation. It was given to him, and then he was then able to give it away and use it as kind of a marketing thing for charity, which that's a Pope thing to do with it. But in case you were wondering, yes, it did have the cool like paint scheme with the gold trim. It like matched the Pope's robes. So
so it was all white and gold.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. So yeah, Pope Francis perhaps was the only Pope to have a Lamborghini, by the way. And I guess
no, there's probably one of them. Lamborghini makes tractors too. There's probably another one that owns a Lamborghini.
That's
not
true.
the car,
true.
but something they make.
But we had the first open top vehicle was used by Pope Paul VI.
Okay.
And this was in the 1960s now. He popularized it for public appearances.
Then he saw that JFK video and they're like, time for some bubbles.
Well, that didn't come until 1981. Pope John Paul II was, there was an assassination attempt on his life. Again, this was, May 13th, 1981. And granted, an assassination attempt. But that changed Popemobiles from that point onwards. They introduced bulletproof glass. They've got armor plating in them. And, of course, the bubble now that we are used to seeing, which presumably is bulletproof glass. And from there, that's really what I think dictated the look of Popemobiles going on from there. And there have been different Mercedes. Fiat, of course, has done it. I do think it's interesting that the Pope or Pope Francis had a Mercedes. I figured it would have been something like a Fiat, something Italian for one, because, think of where the Vatican is and all of this stuff. One would think it would be Italian, like maybe a Lamborghini Urus or something like that.
I don't know, but he probably just didn't want it to break down in the middle of a parade.
Yeah, that's fair.
Let's not lie. Italian vehicles are good for like one race, and then it's like, what is it? It's a new one. And you're like, well, how many times did we rebuild it during the race? Twice. And you're like, okay.
Now, another historical footnote. Earlier in the last segment, you asked, well, I wonder if they're air conditioned. Apparently, they added climate control by the early 2000s. So some of the earlier Popemobiles, that probably was pretty toasty in there. Now, they may have had fans, but actually having their own air conditioning in there.
Of course he had fans. He was waving at everybody going by. He had lots of fans. He's the original only fans with the Pope was waving at people, Look at all these people.
Oh, man. So this brings me to a question, though. So there's going to be a new Pope, and I was briefly looking at what the process is, and it looks very complicated and very confusing. But at some point, they will decide on a new pope.
It is very confusing.
He will be nominated amidst all the other, there's like 200 cardinals. And of those cardinals, there's a special process. And
whenever you say cardinals, I just think of the bird.
I don't know. I think of the baseball team, but.
It's a bird.
Do you think the Cardinals play baseball? I mean, I'm just curious. I'm curious, but.
Do Cardinals play the Cardinals? Is that what you're at? This is a car show, not a baseball show. Yeah. You gotta stop.
Yeah, there we go. It's car show.
What did they drive to the game? That's the real question.
So here's a question then, Jim. We got a couple minutes left here before we wrap the show up. What should the new Popemobile be? What do you think? What are some ideas? Let's brainstorm.
You know what? Get him one of those electric Hummers that can crab walk sideways.
That would be pretty.
Just because it can do the sideways crab walky thing, because it would probably be optimal for parking and everything. And just sitting there and that's just super bubble backed.
Especially if there's like a parade and they have to go around, an obstacle or something. It can just kind of
like roadblock.
Around
he's like crab walk around roadblock. There you go.
That would work.
I still think he needs some bubble boy hands though that come out.
Yeah.
High five some people on the way through the parade.
Yeah. I don't know if he's like a high-fiving kind of guy. I'm not sure. He should be, though.
High fives are universal. Everybody likes a high five.
Everyone does. So I was surprised you didn't say some sort of Toyota, actually.
You could get like a good Land Cruiser or something, or an old school Surf where the top comes off the back.
Ooh,
that would be kind of sick.
Yeah.
Which Surf, for those that don't know, in Japan is it's like a Forerunner basically.
Well, it is a Forerunner, but it's the first gen,
and they're pretty good though.
Yeah.
So, but
my first car, by the way. 88
Yeah.
4Runner with the fiberglass top, 2-door.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, nothing wrong with them. It'd be good, though. Pull the top off. Like, what are you doing? Pope at the beach.
I do think that, first gen 4Runner, that's a good suggestion there.
I was just thinking for mobility that Humvee, the electric one that walks sideways, would be pretty optimal, especially in white and gold. I can just see it just fitting the way they are with stuff.
I could see that too. I would like to think more in like the sports car sort of realm because it's a little more, it's not as big. It can get into tighter spots. I liked the Lamborghini that Pope Francis had, but I was thinking something more along the lines of picture this, like a Miata RF, but with like a bubble on the back.
Oh, I was starting to think of like the Beverly Hillbillies car, and he's just in the back of the chair. Waving at people.
Oh, man. Hey,
Hazel, Texas Gold.
tell us what you think. Comment on the video of this show if you're watching online on the podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, and more. What should be the next Popemobile? You've been listening to the Automotive ADHD Show. I'm Matt West. He's Jim Miller. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week right here on the radio when we're talking more cars.